Let's, let's study about crop production. It's class 8, okay, class 8 CBSE science, right? Crop production. Let's understand what's the need for food for plants and animals. How do plants make food? They make food by photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, they take light energy from the sun. Sunlight is taken from the sun and use carbon dioxide and water to produce food. And this is called photosynthesis. So they produce their own food. How about animals? Animals don't produce their own food. So what they have to do? They take food from other animals. They eat other animals. That's number one. And some animals eat plants. So animals get food from other plants and other animals. Okay? Right. Why do why do plants and animals need food? What's the need for food? Food is required to produce energy. Okay, food is required to produce energy. It is required for growth of the body. How do we grow? By eating food. And it's also required for development of the body. Like in the case of baby which is developing, it needs this to form body parts, organs in the body, isn't it? And for performing daily activities. Okay, for performing daily activities. Can you go to school and study without eating food? No. So you need to have energy for daily activities, and for daily activities you need food. So these are the reasons why we need to eat food. We eat food to get energy. Using energy, we does all those things. Remember, the energy help animals and plants to grow. It helps in development of the body. It helps in performing daily activities. Okay, that's the need for the food. And remember, only plants can make their own food by photosynthesis. But animals, how do they get food? They get food from other animals, or they get food from plants, right? Okay. Okay. Today, what's happening? Human population is rising. Okay, there's a human population explosion. Humans are increasing, so many humans, and we need more food. To grow more food, what do? We do agriculture. What's agriculture? How do you define it? It's a process of growing plants, right, on a large scale. Why? So that we can obtain food from them. And this is called agriculture. And the plants we grow in agriculture are known as crop. So what's a crop? Crop is a, how do you define the crop? Okay, these definitions are according to your book. Okay, it's the same type of plant grown on a large scale. Same type. Like look here, you can see rice. That's a rice plant. It's all rice plant. Down you can see wheat. It's all wheat everywhere. And here you can see soya bean. It's all soya bean everywhere. Okay, same type of plant grown in large scale. It's not one or two, thousands. Thousands of plants are grown together. And why it is grown? For food. Some of them are not grown for food, for other purposes. Okay, for other purposes. For example, I'll give an example like cotton. Cotton is also a crop, but cotton we don't eat. Instead, we use the cotton to make cloth. Okay, fabric. So that's an example for other purposes, right? So what are the two definitions you have to know here? Definition of a crop, and what is agriculture? What's agriculture? Growing plants, not one or two plants in large scale. That's large scale. You can see the field. It's full of the same kind of plants, and it's the same type. What's a crop? It's the same type of plant grown for food. Same type of plant grown for food or other purposes. It can be grown for obtaining food, or we can grow it for other purposes. For example, cotton is a crop. but we don't eat cotton. Instead, we use cotton fibers to make different kinds of clothes. Okay. Let's define a crop. We have already defined the crops. What's a crop? Crop is the same type of plant, same type of plant grown in a large scale, grown in a large scale. If you repeat with me, you can memorize it. So it becomes easy when you learn the lesson in a large scale for food, okay, and other purposes. That's the definition. That's the definition of a crop. Crop is the same type of plants, same type of plant uh, grown on a large scale for food and other purposes. That's the definition of a crop. Okay, there are two kinds of crops. Crops can be of two kinds. What are two kinds of crop? The first kind of crop is known as the cash crop. Okay, and what do you mean by cash? Cash means money, isn't it? And the second kind of crop is called food crop. So this is a crop which is grown basically to get more money, right? That's why they call it cash crops, right? For example, cotton. Cotton is a cash crop. Jute is a cash crop. We don't eat these things, okay? We do it for other things like rubber. Rubber trees, they produce rubber, and the rubber is used for, tire and all those things. You have sugar cane. Sugar cane is for making sugar. Okay, we consume sugar, but not in that large scale. And these are called cash crops. Cash crops gives a farmer a lot of money, cash. So that's why they are known as cash crops. Okay, learn the four examples: cotton, jute, rubber, and sugar cane. What are the food crops? Right, these are the main constituent of our food. One class is known as cereal. It's a group of food. Cereal is a group of food. What are the examples for cereal? You can see in every country, like if you take India, in India, some of the states, they eat more rice. Some states, eat more chapati made from wheat. And in some states, you find they eat more maize. In African countries, you find maize is eaten more. And when you go to Punjab and these areas, they eat more barley. And your grandparents, they eat more oats. Oats is again a cereal. And there's bajra, right? When you go to North India, you can eat roti made up of bajra, right? So these are cereals. These are called cereals because most of the food contains this. It forms a bulk of the food. So it's called a food crop. But along with, let's say, chapati, you might eat like things like chole, right? Beans, pea, lentil. This is a second class of crops. That's called pulse. It's a food crop. What are the pulses? Pulses like gram. Gram means chana. Soya bean. In some places, they consume a lot of soya bean and peas. Okay, lentils. Lentil. It's a dal which looks orange in color, and green peas or moong. Moong is a green colored beans, right? Or arhar. It looks like tur dal you make for sambar and dal fry. These are called pulses. So what are the two types of food crops? One is called cereal, and the second one is called pulse. So it's like with this forms a main dish, like it's something that we eat, right? The combination of pulse and cereal, and these are known as the cereals and pulses. So what are two kinds of crops? The first one is called cash crops because you get money, cash from by growing and selling this, and most of your food is made up of made from cereals and pulses. And learn the name of at least minimum two, and the all. If you learn all of them, it's the best. If you have difficulty, at least learn two examples of these crops. Okay. Now let's look at other crops which are grown. They don't form the main source of food. Okay, like you have to learn two, three examples of fruits. We also eat fruits. Okay, like for example, apple, plum. There are like five, six examples. Mango, grapes. Okay, these are examples of the fruits. Any two examples you learn. But be familiar with all of them because in the exam they can ask you which one is a fruit and cereal. And you have many vegetables, right? Learn two examples such as potato is an example, onion is another example. Then we put many spices. Okay, this is we don't eat them as main food. They of course they are source of food. We eat them, we consume them, but fruits we don't eat like 100% food fruits. But we eat rice and chapati as a main source of energy. So that's why we call them as food crops. But they are additional food crops. Spices like ginger is a spice. Learn the easy ones. Clove or coriander, these are spices. And then you have beverages. Beverages are like drinks, tea, coffee, okay, or cocoa. These are beverages. And we also produce sugar from sugarcane. Sugarcane plant produces, it has sugarcane juice. Or there's a kind of beetroot known as sugar beet, right? You produce sugar from that. Then there are many medicinal plants which give us medicines. There are medicinal plants such as, okay, mint. You're familiar with mint, and any two of them you learn. Okay, cinchona, right? Two plant. What is cinchona? We use even in the kitchen, and most of these things are in the kitchen. If you're not familiar with this, go to the kitchen and have a look at these, vegetables and all those things. And look at the fiber crops. These are the fiber crops. Fiber crops are like cash crops, such as cotton, jute. Okay, those are fiber crops. Flax, hemp. Okay, these are the fiber crops. Then we also get timber from the plants. Timber means wood. Why do we need wood? To construct the home, furniture. So you have things like teak, you have oak, okay, mahogany, shisham, etc. So you have to learn minimum two. And every time you revise, learn two more and learn everything. Okay. Crops can also be classified. So what was the first classification? We classified crops into two groups. One was called cash crop, and second one was called the food crop. Okay, that was the first definition. Now the second definition, according to the season in which it is grown. The first kind group of crop is called a rabi crop. Okay, and the second one is called the kharif crop. Those are the two other crops. What are the rabi crops? These are the crops sown in November. Okay, they plant it in November. In northern India, November means it's almost starting of the winter season. It's winter, and it's harvested in April, which is summer. Okay, that's the first. It's sown. The seeds are sown in November, and the crop is harvested, cut in April. So that's known as a rabi crop. Okay, what's the example for the rabi crop? Like wheat, right? Barley, right? Two examples: mustard, gram, and pea. And how about kharif crops? They are sown in June, which is like June is a time when the rain falls. There's plenty of rain. It's monsoon. Monsoon begins in the June, July. End of June, the monsoon begins. They're sown in June and it's harvested in October. Okay, so you can see that almost the whole year there is June to October, and then in November, another crop. And this crop needs a cold condition like winter. And this one doesn't need winter time. Winter time is not required for the kharif crop. But what's the example for this? Like cotton. Learn two or three examples. Even rice, maize, etc. So we can classify the crops into two groups. The first classification, we classified it to cash crops and food crops. Second classification is we classified it into rabi and kharif crop. Right? What's a rabi crop? It's grown in November. Okay, sown in November and harvested in April. right? So you can make a short form like this, RNA. RNA means Rabi crop, November to April. Okay, the other one is KJO, Kharif crop, June, October. Sown in June, sown in June and harvested in October. So that's another two classification. Okay, RNA and KJO. What's RNA stand for? Rabi crop, sown in November, harvested in April. Kharif crop, sown in June, harvested in October. Okay, this another classification for the crop. Okay, right. Now we're going to study agricultural practices. How do you grow? Suppose in future you want to start a farm, you want to do agriculture. Imagine you got like interest in this, you want to become a farmer. Today many students take up farming after studying. Okay, so it's an interesting field. And let's see, suppose you have a field, your dad gave you like a huge field and asked to start farming agriculture. How do you do it? Here we are studying, we are preparing you as a farmer. Like the first thing you have to do, you have to prepare the soil. Go to your farm, clear the area, plow the soil, and then you have to put manure into the soil. What's manure? It's a minerals for the plants to grow. And then you will be sowing a seed according to the season. As I told you before, it could be, a rabi crop or kharif crop. Okay, according to that you sow it, and then you have to provide water for the plants to do. That's known as irrigation. But suddenly you find some unwanted plants start growing, and you have to pull them out. This is called weeding. Weeding means removing unwanted plants. But then comes rats and birds and other animals which eat your crop, and you become very angry. You have to protect them. You protect your crop from these animals. That's called crop protection. And once your crop is ready, you can cut the crop. That's called harvesting. And after harvesting, you have huge amount of crop with you. So you have to store it for some time before selling it off. And this is called storage. So these are the 7 steps. Learn in the sequence. Okay, soil preparation and manuring. Then that's followed by irrigation, weeding, and crop protection, harvesting, and storage. So if you have difficulty in memorizing the sequence, you can go like SMS, okay, SMS, then IWHS, okay. Uh, Send SMS to IWHS. And that way you can remember the sequence. S stand for soil preparation, manuring, sowing of the seed, irrigation, weeding and protection of the crop, harvesting and storage. Okay, let's study about each of this. What is soil preparation? Okay, let's understand what is the soil. There you can see the soil. Plants actually grow in the top soil. This is the soil which you find on the top. This is the actual soil, which is known as the top soil. What exactly you find in the soil? Soil is a medium in which plants grow. Okay, that's number one point. Okay, it's a medium for the plants to grow. Second, what is it made up of? It's a mixture of sand plus clay. It's a sticky soil. It's called sand you find on the beach. Clay is the sticky soil you find in India, not here. Here we have only sand in the soil. You also find decayed leaves, lot of dead leaves, okay, decaying leaves. It's good for the plants. And you will find bacteria in this. It contains bacteria and it contains lots of earthworm. Don't compare, you don't try to find these things in the soil. In Kuwaiti soil, you don't find it. The reason? It's a sandy soil. It has no nutrients and bacteria and earthworms. And it also has lots of moisture. Remember, if there is a lot of clay, you find a lot of moisture. Plus, you find a lot of air spaces. Okay, that's the composition of the soil. And if you look at, remember, where do you find the air? Let's say those are the soil particles. If those are the soil particles, between the soil particle, you can find a lot of air. This air contains oxygen, and the roots use the oxygen for respiration. Remember, that's why air is required. Soil needs air, right? Okay, roots need to respire because they have to do respiration to produce energy for growth and absorption of mineral ions. And that's why soil should have air spaces. Why there should be moisture that gives water to the plant. And we'll study what does earthworms do, right? Earthworms, like friends of the farmer, and what bacteria does, it decomposes all the dead leaves into nutrients. So the plant gets the nutrients, okay? And soil is basically made up of these two substances. So what is soil? It's a medium in which plant grows. That's number one. And what do you find in the exam? They ask you, what is the composition of the soil? This is the composition of the soil. Soil is made up of mainly sand and clay. Plus, it has decayed leaves. They are decomposed by bacteria. Then an earthworm lives that makes the soil more fertile. And it has moisture, which supplies water to the plant. It has air spaces, which has oxygen, and that's given to the root for respiration. So that's the first step. Okay, soil preparation. Soil preparation start with plowing or tilling. Look at this land. This land is completely dry. It's dry. Okay, on this dry land, if you try to grow a plant, it won't. The reason is too hard. This land is really hard. Roots cannot penetrate the soil. And what you have to do, you have to make the soil loose. See, and making soil loose is known as plowing. Okay, you have to plow the soil. When you plow the soil, you make the hard soil loose. And if it's dry and hard, before plowing, you have to spray water on the soil. If you don't spray water, you can't plow it easily. It's very hard. And what is the benefit of plowing? What benefit plants get by plowing? When you plow the soil become loose. Okay, you're making the soil loose. Number one. Once the soil becomes loose, it has more air between the soil particle and more space between the soil particle. Through the space, roots can penetrate. Roots can penetrate means roots can grow. Here you can see the roots are growing down. Where does it go? Penetrate deep into the soil. Okay, and it also helps earthworms. You will find, you can look at that. Those are earthworms. The earthworms can easily move inside and they make the soil more fertile because they keep eating into the soil. As they keep eating inwards, it produces a lot of feces. See, its feces come up. It eats the soil and make holes in the soil, and these holes contains more air, and that's how earthworms make the soil fertile. So they call the earthworms friends of farmer, okay, or farmer's friend. Why it is a farmer's friend? That's a question can be asked because they make they help to uh, turn the soil up, in and out, and add nutrients to the soil in the form of excreta. That's excreta. And what exactly is it doing? It's eating the soil, digesting the decaying leaves and other things, and change it into nutrients, which can be absorbed by the plant. So that's the reason it's known as a farmer's friends. Another benefit of plowing, it helps to uproot weeds. What's a weed? Weed is an unwanted plant. We don't want this plant. And let's imagine that there are some weeds growing here. Those are the weeds. After the plowing, you won't find them. Okay? Because the soil become loose and it helps to uproot the weeds. That's another benefit. And if you are adding fertilizer, if you put fertilizer on it, we'll study what's a fertilizer. If you put fertilizer, or if you put manure in the soil and then you plow, it gets easily mixed up with the soil. And these are the benefits of plowing. Okay, you can pause the video and repeat it with the video, and that will be easy for you to learn. So, what are the benefits of plowing? It loosens the soil. It makes the soil loose. Write in your own language so that if you try to memorize the same sentences, it's hard to learn biology. Understand it. Imagine using the pictures and write in your own words. It make the soil loose, number one. And when the soil become loose, between soil particle, you find lot of air, lot of space. This air is used by the roots for getting more oxygen, okay, breathing of the roots. And the space is used by the roots to penetrate, go deep into the soil. And it has many earthworms. It helps earthworms to survive because a lot of space is available. And what does the earthworms do? They make the soil fertile by producing a lot of excreta that has nutrients for the plants, and plowing helps to uproot, means remove the weeds from the place, and it's easy to apply fertilizers or manure. Okay, you can spread fertilizers and manure, and this is known as plowing or tilling. Okay, it's a, what how do you define it? It's a process of loosening. There are 2 points. It's a process of loosening the soil, and second point, overturning the soil. Why? To promote, okay, to promote aeration, means promote more air, make it more aerated, and it helps in the growth of organisms. That's the definition. Okay, and don't miss out the key points, like it loosens the soil, it overturns the soil, it allows more air in, allows more organisms to live inside. Okay, so these are the benefits of advantages or benefits of plowing, and that's a definition for plowing. How do you plow? Okay, how do you make the soil? Here you can see this is a traditional way of plowing the soil. The farmer fix a plow, that's a shaft. The shaft is here. You can see the shaft here. That's a shaft. The shaft is fixed on the back of neck of the bull, and it's pulling it, and the farmer is pressing. This is a handle that's in his hand. He's pressing the plowshare deep into the soil, and as it keeps pulling, it makes the soil loose. So that's the first device which is used for plowing. Plowing is done with the help of a plow. You just have to learn the name of the plow. This is called hoe. It's used for in small areas. You can use this. You have to hit the soil hard, and you can see the soil is getting loose. That's called hoe. But this is not. These two methods are not good for large farms. If you have a massive, huge farm, you need a tractor driven. It's called cultivator. Okay, tractor driven cultivator. This is called a cultivator. Okay, and it's driven by a tractor. You find it's connected to a tractor. Your tractors are multi-purpose. It can be used for anything. Tractor driven cultivator, right? And that's another. This is very fast. Okay, and after once you plow the field, you can see. Can you see lumps of the soil? It's if there are big lumps on the in the soil, it's difficult to plant the seeds. So what's the next step? After plowing the soil, you need to do another step. This is called leveling. See, what is it doing? Lumps are leveled. This is known as a leveler. Okay, the plowed field may contain big crumbs of soil, lumps and crumbs. It's necessary to break these lumps, and it's done with the help of a plank. Plank means just a piece of wood. It's a plank, and they're pulling it on the surface. When it's pulled on the surface, it levels. It breaks lumps of soil, make it easy for sowing. So what's the benefit of leveling? One benefit is it breaks the crumbs of the soil crumbs, breaks the soil crumb. That's number one. And once it is leveled, you will have the same. It's easy to do irrigation. Means when you pump water, it will stay on the field. It doesn't run away. It stays at one place. Okay. And what's the name of the device? This is the advantage of leveling. And what do you call this? It's a plank of wood, and this plank is known as a leveler. Okay, it's called a leveler, right? So our field is ready. Our field is ready. We have leveled the field, and what's the next step? Once leveling is done, you need to add manure. Okay, you have to add manure. Look at the manure. What's a manure? What exactly is a manure? Manure is actually decomposing waste of plants. Now, how do they make manure? They make manure by adding all the waste into this pit. What do they put? Waste from the plants. Okay, all the waste from the plants, even home. If you have, from the kitchen, you have waste of vegetable and all those things. All those things are added into the pit. What happens inside the pit? In the pit, this is a good food for bacteria and fungus. Okay, and we know bacteria and fungus are decomposers. And what those decomposers do, they break down complex molecules in this. Okay, and they fill it up and cover it with soil for almost 60 days. In 60 days, the decomposers will break down all the plants into simple molecules. Okay, like after 60 days, they dig it out. It will look like that. Okay, you don't see any more plants. It's all decomposed. And what do you find in the manure? Manure contains nutrients. Okay, plenty of nutrients. And when you add manure to the soil, what will happen? Um, the plants get nutrients. And if you don't put manure, what happens to plant? In absence of manure, plants become weak. They become weak, and they may not produce, good amount of grains and fruits. Production go down. Okay, plants can become weak. That's the reason you have to put nutrients. When you put nutrients, plants absorb the nutrients and grow faster. Okay, and this is called manure, right? There is another kind of manure which is made with the help of well, earthworm. They put all these things inside plus the soil, and then they add earthworms into this. Okay, this is called vermi compost. Okay, if earthworms are added, they call it vermicompost. Okay, even this is a double benefit. The reason, it has earthworms, and we know earthworms are farmers' friends, and it makes it even better, right? So manure is a kind of natural fertilizer. This is a natural fertilizer because we make it from natural things like dead parts of plants, okay, and urine and feces of animals. Everything is dumped into pits, and they're allowed to decompose. Who decomposes it? The bacteria and fungi. Decompose it. Once it is decomposed, the nutrients are released from these dead parts of plants and animals, and this is called manure. What you see here in front of this farmer is known as manure. This manure is a natural fertilizer, and it is added to the field, during plowing. And second type of manure is called vermicompost. In vermicompost, they specially prepare it by adding earthworms and a lot of soil. It's even better because earthworm will feed on this, and number of earthworms will increase in your field, and that makes it even better. It's better than just adding the manure. Okay. This is how you can make manure at home. This how can you make the manure at home? Like, you collect all the waste inside the kind of bin and cover it. After almost 60 days, you start getting what you get is a manure. This is a method to make manure. They call this composting. Okay, composting. If composting is the way of making manure, but you can also do composting by adding um, earthworms. Then you call it vermicomposting. If there is no earthworms added, it's known as composting. If earthworms are added, this is called vermicomposting. Right. Right. There's a disadvantage with the manure. You can't use manure in large fields. What's the reason? It doesn't have so much of nutrients. The nutrients are not too much. So what scientists did, they designed a new kind of artificial manure. Okay, this is an artificial made, manure. It's called fertilizer. This is called fertilizer. Okay, so what is a fertilizer? Fertilizers are man-made, means artificial, and most of them are inorganic. Inorganic means it doesn't have carbon. No carbon containing compounds. No carbon containing compounds. So it's called inorganic, and they are specific. They have only specific nutrients. It has only one or two nutrients, but manure has many nutrients in small amount. Fertilizer has one or two nutrients. For example, you can see on this sack you find it's written NPK, right? NPK means this this fertilizer. It's called NPK 17 17 17. What does it mean? This means it contains nitrogen. It's a mixture of three things. It contains phosphorus or phosphate, and it contains potassium. Three things in equal, equally they are mixed together. So that's why it's called 17 17 17. NPK, this is an NPK fertilizer. Plants need these three nutrients most in amount: nitrate and phosphate and potassium. So there are three kinds of fertilizers. Some fertilizers give you only nitrate. Okay. Some fertilizers give you only phosphate. So phosphate fertilizer. Some fertilizers give you only potassium. And so what they do in the factories, they mix them together to create NPK. NPK is a mixture of three different fertilizers, right? And they are, why do we use them? Because uh, plants need large amount of these nutrients for their growth. And when you do large scale agriculture, okay, you need more nutrients for the faster growth. So they use this, okay? And they are nutrient specific. Remember, it's man-made, it's inorganic, and it has only one nutrient. Nutrient specific means it has one or two nutrients, not too many nutrients, okay? Maximum three nutrients, that's it. And what are some examples for this? For the fertilizer, one example is urea. It's an example, okay? Urea contains only nitrogen, right? And then you have ammonium phosphate. You have to learn these names. Ammonium phosphate. Ammonium phosphate has two things. Ammonium contains nitrogen. Phosphate contains the P. Okay, and you have potash. Potash contains potassium, and superphosphate. That's another one. It has only, see, all of them have only one nutrient or two nutrients. Superphosphate contains phosphate, and NPK is a mixture of all the three. When you mix them together, you get NPK. But what's the disadvantage of this? Manure is good for the soil. It helps the soil. And even if you keep it using for all the time, it doesn't harm the soil. It promotes the growth of bacteria. It promotes the growth of earthworm. It's good. But fertilizers, if you keep using it, so what's the disadvantage of using fertilizer? If you keep using fertilizer, what's the problem? Too much of fertilizer is harmful to the environment. It's harmful to the soil. It changes the pH of the soil, means the soil can become acidic or alkaline or salty. And fertilizers are washed by the rainwater, and it goes to the river and pollute the river. It goes to the ponds and lake and pollute them. So these are three disadvantages of using fertilizers. Okay, and uh, but what's the benefit of this? It speeds up the growth, and it's nutrient specific, and large scale farming need fertilizer because large scale farming needs more amount of nutrients. Okay, that's the difference. Here you can see the difference between organic fertilizer and synthetic fertilizer. What's organic fertilizer? It's a manure. Manure is actually good for the soil. See, when you put the manure, it gets into the soil, increase the soil nutrients, increase the microorganisms, and that gives plants. Okay, that makes the soil healthy. This makes the soil healthy. It's good for the soil. But here, this gives plant nutrients. And what's the problem? It damages the soil. It causes pollution. Okay, it causes pollution. It causes harm to the soil. So this is not a good way of increasing fertility in the long term, right? But this one is a good way of improving the nutrients of the soil. What's the advantage of this? It's nutrient specific, and plenty of nutrients can be supplied to the plants. Okay, right. Those are disadvantages of fertilizer. What's the number one disadvantage of fertilizers? Uh, the first disadvantage, it is it changes the chemical nature of the soil. It changes the chemical nature of the soil. Okay, and it harmed the soil. Literally, it harmed the soil by chemical changing the chemical nature, and it's washed away by the rainwater. Rainwater wash it away to where? To water sources like ponds and rivers, and this will pollute the water sources. So it can cause pollution, right? So these are the disadvantages of using fertilizers. Okay, let's study about legume. What exactly is a legume? Okay? Legumes are special kind of plants. I'll give an example for the legume. Beans. Think about the beans. All forms of beans. We have different types of beans in our food. All these beans, like soya bean, kidney bean, all pulses. You can say beans and pulses or pulses. All the pulses and beans are known as legumes. What's so special about this plant? If you look at the root of the plant, look at the roots. That's the root of the plant. If you look at the root of the plants, on the root you find swellings. See, those are the swellings on the root. And these are called nodules. Okay, what is it? Nodules. And if you cut it open and see it under the microscope, this is actually the home of a bacteria. A bacteria lives inside this. The plant is giving uh, a house to the bacteria in its roots. You can say like that, compare that way. Name of this bacteria is called rhizobium. Why the bacteria is living in the roots? Why it can't live in the soil? Because this bacteria gets food. The plant gives food to the bacteria. The plant gives shelter to the bacteria. And what the bacteria does? It takes nitrogen from the soil. Where do you find nitrogen gas in the soil? Oh, I told you in the beginning that there is soil air. The soil air contains nitrogen gas. The bacteria takes up this nitrogen gas and supply this nitrogen to the plant. Using the nitrogen, it forms proteins. The plant form proteins. Okay, this kind of plants are known as legumes. So it's good to grow these plants in the soil because that will help to fix nitrogen in the air into the plant, and when the plant dies, the nitrogen goes back into the soil. Okay, so this kind of plant, it's a special kind of plant. Then these are known as legumes. All beans and pulses are legumes. Soya bean, mung bean, kidney bean, you name them, all of them contain this bacteria, and the name of the bacteria is called rhizobium. Okay, you have to memorize this. Okay, see, this is another way of improving the fertility of the soil. You can increase the nutrients. This is called green manuring. What is green manuring? They grow legumes. Okay, there are some legumes like, it's called alfalfa. This legume doesn't produce any seeds. Okay, its beans are not used. So what they do, they grow it on the field and using a tractor, they plow it into the soil. Okay, you can see those are the plants and they are plowing it back into the soil. And what happens to these plants? They leave them in the ground for almost a month until it decomposes. When it decomposes, it actually turns into manure in the soil, and this will supply nutrients to the plant. And this is called green manuring. Green manuring is addition of legumes. They grow legumes, plow them into the soil, leave them in the soil for decomposition, so that these green manure will change into actual manure through decomposition, and that gives nutrients to the soil, improve the nutrients of the soil, and this is called the green manuring. Okay, so now your field has a lot of nutrients and your field is ready. You have put manure and fertilizer. It's time to put the seeds. Okay, what is sowing? How do you define the sowing? It's a process of it's a process of putting seeds or adding seeds at proper depth. okay, in the soil. Understood? This is called sowing. It's a process of putting the seeds in the proper depth in the soil. For example, let's say that's the soil. If you put the if you put the seeds just on the surface, what will happen? The birds will come and eat the seeds. Okay? Birds are looking for food. They will come and eat the seed. That's a seed. You just throw the seed on the surface. That's a disadvantage of throwing it on the surface. Okay? So you have to put it inside the soil, right? It should be at the right depth. Okay? That's a soil surface. You should put below the soil, not too deep, not too up. It should not be on the surface, just beneath the soil. What's the reason? Because the seeds need air. Okay, you have to put it right under the soil so that it gets enough air from the air spaces below, oxygen. Second, it has to grow out. If it's too deep, what will happen? It just can't grow out. It won't get enough oxygen and it dies. So you can't put the seeds too deep inside. You can't put it on the surface. And that's why it says right depth. And farmers know what's the right depth. Just under the soil. Okay. And before you select the seed, you have to make sure that the seed is healthy. Healthy seed means you get good crop. It should be clean without any microorganisms. It should be fertile, means it should be able to grow and produce flowers and fruits. Okay, and you should choose a high yielding variety. Why? High yielding variety means a variety that produce lot of fruits, lot of flowers, lot of seeds, so that you get more money. And it should be free from all diseases. These the seeds you select should be of this kind. Okay, in the exam they can ask you what kind of seeds are selected for before sowing, and seed should be healthy, clean, fertile. Fertile means it should be able to germinate and produce flowers and fruits. It should be high yielding. Okay, it should produce lot of large fruits and flowers, and it should be free from all the diseases. All right. After selecting it, what do you have to do? You put it, sow the seed. So how do you do the sowing? You place the seed in the appropriate depth. Okay. It should not be too deep or not too shallow. There's a right kind of distance from the surface. Okay. And this also allows it to get air, lot of air. It's easy for the seed to come out after germination, right? And you should not put it very close to each other. If you keep the seed like this, one seed here, next one here, next one here, the distance between the seed is too little. What's the disadvantage of this? When it grows into plants, okay, there's an overcrowding of plants. See, when they overcrowd, they don't get enough sunlight, and the roots are, absorb all the nutrients. They will run off to nutrients. So what do you have to put? You put the seed at the right distance. When you put at the right distance, when they grow out, they get enough sunlight. They get enough nutrients from the soil. See, now the right distance. The leaves should not touch each other. Okay, and the roots should not come close to each other. That's the right distance, and farmers know this. And uh, this is another condition. And you should know the time of sowing. Okay, as we studied before, there are two crops, Rabi crop and Kharif. Okay, you just can't go and put the seed. You have to look at the time, what time you are sowing. Okay, that's another important fact. Okay, and this is called sowing. What is sowing? It's putting seeds in the soil in the right depth. How do you select the seeds? You should select healthy seed, clean seed, and they should be fertile. Fertile means they should germinate and produce flowers and fruits. They should be high yielding variety, and they should not have any kind of diseases. And you have to check the time of your sowing, right? The right time you have to sow. Otherwise, they may not germinate or they may not produce flowers. You should not put them too deep inside the soil, or not. It should not go too deep or too shallow. It should not be on the surface because they are eaten by the birds easily, right? And they should be at the right distance away from each other. They should not be close to each other. This is how they sow the seeds. All right. Okay, that's the first method of sowing the seed. What do you call this? This method is called broadcasting. They just throw the seed on the surface. But as I told you, there's a disadvantage for this, and it will stay on the surface and it can be eaten by the birds. It's not going deep inside the soil. It's not under the soil on the surface. This is called broadcasting. This process is called broadcasting. Broadcasting, they spread the seeds on the surface, but it's a very easy procedure. You can finish a large area in less time. That's the reason they keep doing this one, okay? And you will find that when you throw the seed can fall close to each other, okay? It won't maintain that regular distance. So that's another disadvantage of this method. And what do you call it? Broadcasting. What is broadcasting? It's a method of sowing the seed. And what is it? It's scattered by hand. Seeds are scattered using hand on the soil. And this is called the broadcasting. Okay. And if you, because of the disadvantage of broadcasting, they use seed drill. Look at the seed drill. In the seed drill, you can see a funnel. You can see a funnel. In this funnel, they put the seed. Seeds are added to the funnel. And this is connected to a bull. Okay, bull pulls it. And can you see something like a plow here? This will create holes on the ground, channels. Okay, it will create channels. And the seeds the seeds which are being added, like this part, this whole part is a place where they put the seeds. Okay, and the seeds are added into this, and the seeds keep coming through these tubes. Through those tubes, the seeds will come down. It's a pipe. That's one pipe, second pipe, third pipe, fourth one, and fifth one. So what actually is happening here? Okay, this make a groove, a hole in the ground, and it's being pulled. In that channel, the seeds are laid, and you can see that it maintains a distance between the seeds. It maintains a distance. This is called seed drill. Seed drill makes sure that the seed goes in the right depth. That's number one. And it maintains the distance between the seed. Okay. So, but this is driven by a bull. And then for larger areas, this is difficult, right? And that's known as a seed drill. And that's how they use a seed drill. And the seed drill, um, it lays through these tubes. You can see those tubes. Through the tubes, the seed falls into the channel grooves in the soil. Okay, that's known as a seed drill. And for the larger farms, they use this device. Okay, it's driven by a tractor. It's driven by a tractor. See, there's a tractor there, and this is the seed drill. And you can see multiple tubes coming down. All those tubes, the seeds are put here. They put the seeds inside this big box. Okay, it's full of seeds. It's a seed container, and the seeds start coming down through these tubes, right? And it's creating. Can you see a hole in the ground? Okay, right? And the device, which is like almost like a plow, it creates a groove in the ground. Seed goes inside, and it gets covered by the soil. So it's not that the previous one was the traditional method of seed drill, traditional seed drill, but this is more efficient. At a time you can put many rows of seeds. See, each row, okay, many rows. So this is useful for bigger fields, bigger farms, and this is the tractor driven seed drill. Okay, that's another method. So this is called transplanting. This is called transplanting. What is transplanting? In transplanting, see here you can see they are using a small plastic container, and they grow the plants inside. They put the seeds inside. Okay, this is kept in a safe place, right, where the birds don't eat it. It's in the right depth, and they grow the plants. This is equivalent to a nursery. They grow the plants in a small nursery, and after that they pull the plant and transplant it. Okay, they are transplanting into a bigger field. So what's the benefit of this? This, you can make sure that you're taking only healthy plants. You don't take unhealthy plants. You take only healthy plants and see the distance. You can maintain the right distance. You can maintain the right depth of the plant. And this process is called the transplantation. It's a technique to select healthy seeds. How do you choose a healthy seed? When you look at a seed, you won't know which one is healthy or bad. Okay? To choose this, you take a glass of water, put the seed in that. Those are the seeds. If the seeds are floating, okay, they are not used for uh, the soil. Okay, floating seeds should not be taken. The reason it may have less amount of contents inside. The heavy ones are the healthy seeds. Heavy ones which sink into the bottom of the glass, they are the healthy ones and they are chosen for sowing in the farm. Okay, the next method, you have sown the seed, you have transplanted it. Now you need water. Okay, so this is called irrigation. What is irrigation? Supplying water to the crop is known as irrigation. Okay, you can depend on rainwater for rain for irrigation, but rain may not fall sometimes. So you need to artificially water the soil for the growth of the plants, and this is called irrigation. So what is irrigation? How do you define it? It's an artificial watering of the soil. Artificial watering of the soil is known as irrigation. Okay, these are some of the traditional methods of irrigation. I strongly suggest you to look at no, some of the videos people have put on YouTube. Okay, this system is called a Rehat system. Okay, it's a traditional way of pumping water. Can you see? Here you can see a bull is moving in a circle. It is pulling this lever. If you if you come here, this is another road which is rotating. This rotates, that rotates another road which is connected to this road. Okay, it's all connected together. And when the bull walks around, it rotates this road. When this road rotates, this one rotates. When this rotates, the whole wheel rotates. And on the wheel, you can see buckets. Those are the buckets. Okay, see, look at the buckets. And that's a pit. Down you can see a pit. In the pit, maybe it's water from the river, and you want to pump it to a higher level. As it keeps rotating, due to the movement of the bull, the wheel keeps rotating, and it will carry the water up. This contains water. When it reaches here, you can see it's getting tilted. The tilting action will put the water into this container, and it's taken away through the pipes here. This is a traditional system. It's called Rahat. We don't have to memorize how does it work, but be familiar with the working. That's all. Okay. What's the first one? It's a Rahat system. It's a traditional system. Okay. This is the second system. It's called Thekli. In Thekli, using a rod, they lower this one. Okay. You can sometimes it's handled by humans or they put a huge weight over here, right? And by removing and adding the weight, they move it down into the well, and when you add the weight or press it, it comes up. Okay, and the water is this man will uh, put the water from the bucket into this canal, which is taken through uh, this canal to other parts of the field, and this is called dhekli. That's another. It's called chain pump. There are very good videos on on YouTube on chain pumps. In chain pumps, this is a water source. Maybe it's a pond. From here, you want to pump the water to this upper level. So here you can see on a chain, they put the buckets. And as the chain rotates, as the chain keeps rotating, what will happen? The bucket moves down and it carries the water up. When it comes here, it's tilted and the water is drained into this. This is also bullock driven. Okay, they use the bullocks. The bullock is moved forward and backward, so it keeps rotating all the time, right? This is called a chain pump. What we need to know is the names of traditional methods of irrigation. Okay, right. That's a summary of all of them. That's a thekli. and they can see there's a weight over here, and the using the weight, the man pulls the water up. That's a chain pump. There's a rehat, and that's a moat. Moat is like using a pulley. Using a pulley, the man or woman pulls up the water from the well. Okay, just the names you have to memorize. Okay, but those are not very efficient. Today we have more efficient systems like sprinkler. Okay, what exactly is a sprinkler? In a sprinkler, there are two systems: sprinkler system and drip irrigation. In a sprinkler system, you find the water is pumped into those tubes, and it has a rotating nozzle. Okay, here you find a rotating nozzle. But I've seen this in gardens in India. Even here, you can see them, which sprays the water like a rain. And this is very suitable for sandy soil where the water drains out quickly. So you have to keep spraying it, constantly. And but this means there's a lot of evaporation of water from the soil. You need too much water to do the sprinkler system. A lot of water is wasted. But there's another system known as drip irrigation to save the water. Okay, look at the drip irrigation. In drip irrigation, they put tubes next to the plants. See, you can see hundreds of tubes in the farm. And there is a tiny hole on the tube. They put a hole on the tube. Next to the plant, they put a hole. Through this hole, water keeps dripping. That's why it's called drip irrigation. A drop comes in maybe 5 or 10 minutes, one drop. And in 24 hours, it gets enough water for its use. And there's no wastage of water. Okay, you're not spreading the water everywhere. You just give it directly to the plant. It reduces evaporation and wastage of water, and is given for fruit plants, gardens, and trees, right? So this is known as drip irrigation, which is better than the sprinkler. Sprinkler is used in sandy soil where the water quickly evaporates and disappears, right? So once you grow the plants, suddenly you can see some new plants appear from nowhere. You didn't plant them. They just come through the air. The seeds of these plants land on your farm in the soil, from the air, from animals, from the birds, etc. And these are called weeds. What's a weed? How do you define a weed? These are unwanted plants. Unwanted plant. If this is unwanted plant, which one is a wanted plant? The wanted plant is your crop. That's a that's a plant you want. And you don't want this plant because it doesn't give you anything. And that's why they call it unwanted. What happens if you allow them to grow together, weed and crop? Weeds will compete with your crop, absorb all the nutrients, air, sunlight, and space. And it will literally kill your plant. Okay? They can also spread pests. These are unwanted animals. We don't want them. They will increase the number of pests. So we should remove them. So what are the disadvantages of allowing crops to grow? I mean, weeds to grow. Weeds will compete for space, nutrients, air, sunlight, and water. And they also spread pests, which damage the crops. Okay, and all some of the pests even produce harmful substances that reduce yield of the crops. Okay, these are some of the common ones. This is called amaranthus. That's called amaranthus. And then you have chenopodium. This is called chenopodium. Okay, the pictures help you to remember the names. Okay, amaranthus, chenopodium, chenopodium. Okay, amaranthus, chenopodium, and this is the wild oats, not the oats. Looks like it's a species of oats. You can see it looks like oat, the seeds, but it can't be used as food. Okay, it's called wild oats. You can see them in India. So we should remove the weeds. Okay, what do you call removing the weeds? Removing the weeds is called weeding. So what is weeding? Weeding is a process of removing the weeds. How do you remove the weeds? The removal of weeds is done with the help of these devices. This is called a trowel. You use it in your garden. You have to sit down and physically remove the weeds. Okay, and this is called a hoe. These can be used in small places, right? But for larger places, you can't use them. That's the limitation of these two devices. Remember the names over here, trowel and hoe, are used for weeding. Weeding is removal of weeds. Okay, there's another way. This is by applying weedicide. What's a weedicide? It's a chemical. And what does the chemical do? It kills the plants, kills the weed. So weedicide. Look at the name, side. Side means to kill. You might have heard about other sides, like suicide means people kill themselves, suicide, isn't it? Insecticide, okay, means a chemical to kill insect. Pesticide, it's a chemical to kill pest. Whenever you see side, that means to kill. So here this means weedicide. Side means to kill, chemicals to kill the weed. These are called weedicides. You have to spray it in the field and using machines they spray it. Okay, and this is how they kill the weeds in larger areas. Look at the names of some of these weedicides. See how you have to learn these names. One is called simazine and another one is metachlor. Okay, learn those names. Simazine, metachlor, butachlor, they sound similar. Meta, buta, and this is called MCPA. Okay, just learn the names of at least two of them. These two sound very similar, so it's easy to remember. This is also like SIM, SIM, mobile SIM, Simazine, Simazine. Okay, make up something so that it's easy to memorize it. Okay, and once your crop has grown, you will find pest. What, like the weeds, we don't want the pest. What is a pest? These are animals or microorganisms that cause damage to your crop. These are called pests. Okay, and what microbes do? The microorganisms like virus, bacteria, fungi, they cause diseases in the crop. And animals, even animals can be pests. What animals do? They damage the crop, destroy the crop, they eat up the parts of the crop. Okay, so we call them pests. So what's a pest? It's an organism which destroys a crop. That's known as a pest. Remember, an organism which destroys a crop is known as a pest, right? And how do you kill the pest? Like the previous one, pesticide. Weeds are killed with weedicide. These are killed with pesticides, right? So you have to learn some of the pest names of the pest. Look at the names of the pest. Okay, remember this. This is called DDT. It's not used anymore. It's banned all over the world because it causes pollution. This is called malathion. Malathion. And this is called warfarin. It's only for rats, for killing the rats. That's another one, BHC. Okay, I think these two are easy to remember. Uh, DDT and BHC. And even this you can memorize like war. Okay, okay, far in. Okay, war is far from in. Okay, warfarin, right? Then this is malathion. Malathion. Okay, break up and learn it so become easy. Just learn the names of at least two and learn all of them later. What's the disadvantage of weedicides and pesticides? Pesticides and weedicide have disadvantages because these are chemicals. When they spray, it affects the health of the farmer. They breathe it in. Continuous, spraying causes affect the health of these people. And some of the traces of pesticide and weedicide, it stays on the crop. And when we eat the crop, like rice and wheat and fruits, we get it into our body. That's a disadvantage of the pesticide. But still, people use it, right? Okay. Now your crop is ready. Okay. After almost 6 months of fighting the weeds, fighting the pest, you are ready to cut your crop. And what do you call this? This is called harvesting. How do you define harvesting? Harvesting is cutting the crop. Okay. And gathering. Cutting and gathering. What kind of crop? Mature crop. And the farmers know when does it get mature. There's no point of cutting it before maturing. And this is called harvesting. Look at the definition. There are 3 points. It's a cutting of crop. Then you gather it, means collect it. And what kind of crop is cut? Mature. Okay. When mature crop is cut and gathered, this process is called harvesting. And there are different methods of harvesting. And this is a cereal crop. Like what's shown in the picture is wheat crop. It's a cereal. Cereals are like long plants, grass. So they cut with sickle. You might have seen this. That is a sickle. Okay, it's a simple device, but what's the disadvantage? It takes a lot of time, many people to cut the crop. So this is the first method of harvesting. To After cutting the crop, what's the next step? The next step is threshing. What is threshing? That's actually rice. Okay, paddy, and on the tip you find the rice. Rice is here. What the farmer is doing? He's hitting on the ground. And that's a rice. What you see here is a rice. When you keep hitting it constantly, it separates grains from the crop by beating it. And this is called threshing. So what is threshing? Beating the crop to separate the grain from the crop is known as threshing. Okay, it's a traditional method. And what they do after that, you know, they separate. Even this is the threshing. You can see they're hitting it on a plank of wood. Okay, he's holding it and hitting it hard on it. So the rice is separated, and that's a rice. It's getting separated from the crop. Okay, and a sickle can't be used for bigger farms. It can't be used. So this is a device. It's a machine. It's called harvester. Harvester does everything. Harvester cut the crop and the crop is taken inside. Threshing is done inside. Okay. After that, even it does winnowing and give you good grain. So it's like combined machine. So they call it a combined machine. It has everything combined into one machine. It can harvest, cut the crop, take it inside, thresh it, and after threshing, they even separate the chaff and means winnowing is done and you get what you get is a final clean grains. Okay, it's a clean grain you get after all those things. Okay, right. And this process is called winnowing. Okay, this is called, sorry, this process is known as winnowing. What's winnowing? You can see that that woman is standing on a chair and dropping the grain. When you drop the grain, but make sure that there is wind blowing. Wind should be there. If there's no wind, you can put a fan or something here. Okay, put up a fan here. In presence of moving air, you drop it from a distance. And the lighter grains have a name. It's called chaff. It doesn't have much of the starch and these things. It's lighter, it's empty. So wind blows it away, and this process is called winnowing. Okay, so how does it go? The first step is harvesting. You harvest the crop. Second step, you thresh the crop. What is threshing? Separating the grain from the crop. Plant is called threshing. After threshing, the next step is winnowing. When you winnow it, what do you get? You get clean grain without the chaff. And this is how the crop is harvested and cleaned so that you have clean crop for human consumption. Okay, that's a way of winnowing with the machine. And again, it makes sure that there is wind, all right, and that you can one side the shaft falls on one side, grain is on the other side, right? After harvesting and cleaning and everything, what you need to do is storage. You have to store it. Things like grains, pulses, which doesn't have too much of water content. What do? They dry it in the sun. After drying in the sun, they store it inside huge go downs. Okay. And these godowns are for dry storage. These are the dry storage, okay? And they put it in gunny bags, okay? They are packed in the gunny bags. And what's the benefit of using the gunny bag? And the gunny bags allow water vapor if it's there. And they make sure that there's no water vapor. They dry it in the sun and then store it. Through the gunny bags, if there is moisture, it escapes. Okay, that's one advantage of storing it in the gunny bag. Okay, and if it's like perishable items like fruits, you can't keep fruits outside for a long time. It overripe and decompose. How about vegetable? Fruits and vegetables, these are stored in cold storage. This is called cold storage. Cold storage is for perishable food items like fruits and vegetables. And this is for the dry food items like grains and pulses. They are stored inside. After winnowing, so what they do? They winnow it, dry it in the sun to remove the moisture, put it in the gunny bags, and store inside the dry storage. Huge rooms. And this is for the fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are stored at low temperature. Cold storage means low temperature. At low temperature, they don't get decomposed and damaged. Okay, right. So that's a storage of the crop. Okay, that's another way of store. If it's like very huge, very huge farm. In the farm, you find large amount of crop being generated. They store it in the silos. This is called grain silo, and you can see uh, a pipe going up. The trucks will dump it here, and from there it's pumped up like concrete. You might have seen, and through this pipe, it's pumped into each of this, and down you can see again pipe. Through the pipe, if whenever it's required, it can be taken out, right? So okay, these are called grain silos. Look at hybridization. What's hybridization? Hybridization is producing better variety of crops, and this crop is called hybrid crop because we want crop to produce more of everything, more grains, more fruits, more vegetables. So this is called hybridization. So scientists, they take two plants with desirable characteristics, means characteristics we want, such as bigger fruits, more grains, sweeter fruits. These are the desirable characters, and they cross them, cross pollinate them to produce new plants. This process is called hybridization. The process is called hybridization. So how do you define hybridization? It's a process in which two or more varieties, okay, two or more varieties are used to get a good variety of crop. It's called hybridization. And what do you call this crop? This is called hybrid crop. Right. That's another method of cropping. Okay. And if you look at this farm, you can see there's sunflower growing here. That's a sunflower. And then you find the soya bean. Soya bean is growing. Again sunflower, soya bean. So you can see two crops growing together. This is called mixed cropping. What's a mixed cropping? When you grow two or more varieties, basically minimum two different crop varieties are grown together at the same time in the same field. Remember, it should be grown at the same time in the same field. Okay, then you can call it mixed cropping, right? It's also known as multiple cropping. There are two other names, multiple cropping, or it's known as double cropping. Okay, multiple cropping or double cropping. What's the advantage? And one advantage is that use less labor. Less labor. Same time you can do it, and less labor to plant the seeds, and less labor to harvest the seed. Okay, that's a disadvantage of mixed cropping, and you get more profit because you have two different crops. This is called crop rotation. Crop rotation is another way of improving crop. What is crop rotation? You grow one crop, a legume. Okay, grow a legume, and then you grow another crop, which is not a legume. Okay, again you grow legume. Okay, when you alter the legumes with non-legume, it's called crop rotation. You don't grow the same crop. What's the benefit of growing legumes? We studied in the one of the previous slides that it takes nitrogen from the atmosphere because it has root nodules. Root nodules contains a bacteria known as rhizobium. What does rhizobium do? It fixes that nitrogen in the plant, and when this plant decomposes, and the nutrients become available to the other plants, right? So this is called crop rotation. Okay, this is called crop rotation. Okay, and what is it? Crop rotation is growing two different types of crops, two different crops in alternative years. Okay, in alternative years in the same field. That's the definition. Okay, two, you are growing two crops not together. Okay, one crop 1 year. Let's say that's this year you grow 2020, you grow this one, and the next year you grow one of this crop 2021, and the next year you grow again the legume. Okay, all this way of alternating is known as the crop rotation. What's the advantage of crop rotation? In crop rotation, you find the legumes give more nitrogen compounds, increase the fertility of the soil because they have roots with rhizobium bacteria, which fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere. Okay, that's the same nitrogen fixing bacteria. I just repeated so that you uh, don't forget about this. That's a root nodule. It has rhizobium bacteria. And what does it do? It takes nitrogen from the atmosphere and supply to the plant. When this plant dies and decomposes, it goes back to the soil. Okay, that's the reason they keep growing legumes for crop rotation. Okay, this is called monoculture. What's a monoculture? Monoculture is growing one kind of plant. See, it's all same plants, same crop, right? And this is called monoculture. What's the benefit of monoculture? It produces a crop. This crop become cheap and it's easily available. Okay, lot it's plenty. It's available in plenty. This crop, whatever you grow. But what's the disadvantage? This crop will take one specific nutrient from the soil. A specific nutrient is absorbed from the soil. That means the soil become deficient of that specific nutrient, right? It's depleted of nutrients. If you keep growing the same crop over and over, some of the specific nutrients that plant needs, it become missing. Soil become depleted of nutrients, specific nutrient. This is a disadvantage of monoculture. Okay, let's study nitrogen cycle. You don't have to memorize it, but understand it really well. They can ask you to draw because the diagram is in the book, right? Uh, there is nitrogen in the atmosphere. Okay, that's a soil. And this nitrogen should come to the soil as nitrate so that plants can absorb. Plants cannot absorb nitrogen gas, but they can absorb nitrogen in the form of nitrate. So it should come to the soil. How? How does it come to the soil? By three different methods. There are three different methods by which it comes to the soil. The first method is with the help of legumes. That's number one. Okay. What do you find in the legumes? Legumes contain root nodule. What is inside the root nodule? You find a bacteria known as rhizobium. Rhizobium is a bacteria which is inside the root nodules. And what does it do? This rhizobium will take nitrogen from the air and change it into compounds of nitrogen like protein. And when this plant die and decompose, okay, the nitrate will come to the soil. That's the first method. Second method, whenever there is lightning, lightning is a discharge of electricity between the clouds. When there is lightning, nitrogen react with oxygen to form oxides. And oxides dissolve in the rainwater and come to the soil. Okay? And when they come to the soil, they form nitrate. Right? That's another method. And the third method, in the factories, they make fertilizers. Fertilizers that contain nitrogen. It's called nitrate fertilizers. When farmers put this fertilizer in the soil, it will come to the soil. Okay, it's called. This is the three ways in which the nitrate come to the soil. Okay, how? What are three methods? With the help of legume, with the help of lightning, and through the fertilizers. These are three methods, right? And this nitrate is absorbed by plants. Okay, those are the plants which are not legumes. They don't have root nodules. They absorb the nitrate, and they use the nitrate to form protein. Animals eat this plants. Plants are eaten by animals. Okay, when plants and animals die, they die. When they die, they decompose. After decomposition, what happens to nitrate? It comes back to the soil. Okay, and even animals excrete, they produce urine that contains urea, one of the fertilizers. Even that comes back to the soil. And some of the nitrate goes back to the atmosphere and become free nitrogen. And this is called denitrification. Okay, denitrification is changing nitrate back into free nitrogen is known as denitrification. Okay, this is called nitrogen cycle. Right, and we also get food from animals, right? And this animals can be used as a source of food. And we produce a food through animal husbandry. What's animal husbandry? Animal husbandry is the large scale. Okay, large scale, not in few animals, large scale. Rearing. Rearing means taking care of. Okay, I mean, keeping them so that they are under your control. Rearing and caring. You care for animals. You take care of their needs, give medicines, and so on. And breeding. That's the definition. It's a large scale rearing, caring, and breeding of domesticated animals. Okay, domesticated animals. Okay, such as cow and sheep for food and food products. For food and the food products, like it can be milk or cheese is a food product. Milk or cheese, that's a food product. This is called animal husbandry. This is the definition of animal husbandry. It's a large scale rearing, caring, and breeding to increase the number of the offsprings. You should have more number of animals, of the domesticated animals such as sheep and goat and buffalo for food and food products is known as animal husbandry, right? Okay, and you can classify these animals. What's a common name for all these animals? All these animals raised under animal husbandry, they have a common name. This is called livestock. Livestock means all the animals which are maintained in animal husbandry. Okay, these animals are together known as the livestock. Okay, we can classify animals into different groups. Some of the animals give milk. Okay, these are called dairy animals. Okay, they produce milk. They're mainly for milk. Okay, or they are known as milch animals. Right. For example, cows, buffaloes. Right. These are the milch animals. Right. And even mostly these two are used, but in some places you can see sheep is used, goat is used, like in Kuwait, they get milk from the camel, right? And what are the products, other products from the milk? You can also create food products, like you can make cheese. Okay, you can make butter, you can make ghee, yogurt or curd, etc. Right? Okay, another source of food. What's the other source of food? It's called meat. Many animals provide us with meat. For example, goat, sheep, chicken, fish, right? They provide us with meat too. Okay. And some of them provide us with eggs. They are egg providing animals too, like hen, duck, okay, turkey, right? These animals provide egg, and they are known as poultry. You call them poultry, right? The milk producing animals are called milch animals. Okay, these are the poultry animals. All right, and you also get honey from animals, like honey bees provide us honey. And what do you call the um, rearing and keeping of the honey bees? This is called apiculture. Remember, apiculture means it's a branch of animal husbandry in which you rear and breed honeybees in the beehives. Okay, they keep beehives and they keep the honeybees to produce honey. This is called the apiculture, right? Okay, look at some of the pictures here. Those are the milk producing animals. Okay, these are the meat. That's how each part of the body has a name. Okay, we don't study that just for you to understand. That's a shrimp and the prawns. What's the difference? Look at the prawn. Prawns have a hump on its back and it has a narrow abdomen. Okay, this part is very narrow, and there are differences in their clothes too. But look at the difference here. That's the difference between shrimp and the prawns. That's a poultry. Okay, and you can see the eggs. You feed the animal, the chicken, duck. Any of these animals, they keep producing egg. This is apiculture, and those are honeybees. They are depositing, nectar, honey in each, and they close it with bee wax. And once it is ready, we open the hive and collect the nectar from that. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.